David Sanchez grew up in a bustling city, where the sounds of traffic and the chatter of neighbors filled the air around his cramped apartment. His childhood was marked by the close quarters of urban living, where he often dreamed of wide open spaces and the freedom that came with them. Those dreams lingered in his mind as he navigated the challenges of apartment life, yearning for a connection to nature that felt just out of reach. Now, as an adult, David found himself on the brink of a new chapter, ready to embrace a life he had long envisioned for himself and his son Jimmy. The excitement of moving to a farmhouse was palpable. It was a chance to escape the concrete jungle and immerse themselves in the beauty of the countryside. The thought of rolling hills, sprawling fields, and the promise of adventure filled their hearts with joy. Jimmy, with his youthful curiosity, was particularly thrilled at the prospect of exploring the vast land, imagining all the hidden treasures and secrets waiting to be uncovered. As they packed their belongings, the anticipation grew, and the farmhouse loomed in their minds as a place of endless possibilities. However, beneath the thrill of this new beginning lay an undercurrent of mystery. The farmhouse, with its weathered walls and creaking floors, held stories of its own, stories that whispered through the wind and echoed in the silence of the night. David couldn't shake the feeling that they were stepping into a world where the past intertwined with the present, where shadows danced in the corners and secrets lingered just out of sight. This transition from the familiar confines of their apartment to the enigmatic embrace of the farmhouse was not just a move, it was the beginning of a thrilling and eerie adventure that would change their lives forever. David's memories of living in cramped apartments are tinged with a sense of longing and frustration. Growing up in a bustling urban environment, he often found himself surrounded by the constant hum of city life. Noisy neighbors would argue late into the night, their voices echoing through thin walls, making it difficult for him to find peace or concentrate on his dreams. The limited space in their small apartment meant that playtime was often confined to the living room, where toys were scattered like remnants of a childhood that yearned for more. David often gazed out the window, watching children play in the streets below, feeling a pang of envy as they ran freely, their laughter ringing out like music. The small playground nearby was a meager escape, but it came with its own set of challenges. With only a few swings and a slide, it was often overcrowded, and David found himself waiting impatiently for his turn, watching as others enjoyed the freedom he craved. The frustration of standing in line, watching the minutes tick by, only deepened his desire for a space where he could roam without restrictions. He dreamed of wide open fields where he could run freely, climb trees, and explore the wonders of nature. The limitations of apartment living felt suffocating, as if the walls were closing in on his imagination. Each day, he would close his eyes and envision a world beyond the concrete and brick, a place where he could breathe deeply and feel the grass beneath his feet. This longing for outdoor space and the freedom it represented became a defining aspect of his childhood, shaping his dreams and aspirations. David's memories of those cramped apartments serve as a poignant reminder of the adventures he missed, fueling his determination to create a different life for himself and his son, one filled with the open skies and endless possibilities he had always desired. The excitement in the Sanchez family was palpable as they prepared to move to their new farmhouse, a sprawling property that promised a life filled with adventure and discovery. The farmhouse itself was a charming structure, with weathered wooden beams and a wraparound porch that beckoned them to sit and enjoy the serene surroundings. It stood proudly on several acres of land, dotted with wildflowers and bordered by a gentle stream that sparkled in the sunlight. David could hardly contain his anticipation at the thought of having his own bedroom for the first time, a space where he could escape and dream without interruption. The idea of waking up to the sound of birds chirping and the rustle of leaves outside his window filled him with joy. Jimmy, too, was thrilled at the prospect of having ample outdoor space to explore. He envisioned building forts, climbing trees, and running freely across the vast fields, far removed from the confines of their old apartment. However, amidst the excitement, there was an intriguing aspect of the property that caught David's attention. The old farmhouse that sat a short distance away from their new home. It was a dilapidated structure, its paint peeling and windows cracked, giving it an eerie presence that sent shivers down his spine. The sight of it stirred a mix of curiosity and apprehension within him. What stories lay hidden within those walls? What secrets had it witnessed over the years? As they settled into their new life, David couldn't shake the feeling that the old farmhouse held a mystery waiting to be unraveled. The contrast between the vibrant life they were about to embrace and the haunting aura of the old farmhouse set the stage for an adventure that promised to be both thrilling and unsettling, igniting their imaginations and drawing them into a world of possibilities. The renovation process of the old farmhouse into a barn for David's grandmother's horses became a labor of love for both David and his dad. Armed with tools and a shared vision, they dove headfirst into the project, eager to breathe new life into the weathered structure. The first step was clearing out years of accumulated debris, revealing the sturdy bones of the building beneath layers of dust and neglect. David felt a surge of excitement as they worked side by side, hammering nails and sawing wood, transforming the once eerie space into something vibrant and functional. They reinforced the walls, installed new stalls, and painted the exterior a cheerful shade of red, reminiscent of classic barns that dotted the countryside. Each day brought new challenges, but the satisfaction of seeing their hard work take shape fueled their determination. David's imagination ran wild as he envisioned his grandmother's horses trotting into their new home, their manes flowing in the wind as they explored the spacious stalls. However, as the renovation progressed, strange occurrences began to unfold. It started with subtle sounds, soft whispers that seemed to echo through the empty halls, and the occasional creak of floorboards when no one was around. David brushed it off as his imagination, but the feeling of being watched lingered in the air. One evening, while they were working late, a sudden chill swept through the barn, causing David to shiver despite the warmth of the summer night. He exchanged uneasy glances with his dad, both sensing that the old farmhouse held secrets that were yet to be revealed. As they continued, their renovation, the excitement of creating a home for the horses, mingled with an unsettling awareness that they were not alone in the barn. The transformation was not just physical, it seemed to awaken something within the walls, setting the stage for a series of strange occurrences that would soon challenge their understanding of the farmhouse and its history. After moving the horses into the newly renovated barn, David and his dad were met with an unexpected challenge. The horses exhibited a noticeable reluctance to enter their new home. Despite the inviting stalls and fresh hay, the animals hesitated at the entrance, snorting and stamping their hooves as if sensing something amiss. David watched in confusion as his grandmother coaxed them with treats, but the horses remained skittish, their eyes wide with apprehension. It was as if an unseen force held them back, and the excitement of their new barn quickly turned into concern. As days passed, the unsettling behavior escalated. One morning, David discovered that one of the horses, a spirited mare named Bella, had developed a strange bleeding from her nostrils. Alarmed, he rushed to inform his dad, who immediately called the veterinarian. The vet examined Bella, but could find no clear explanation for her condition. Soon after, other horses began to show signs of distress, experiencing unexplained health issues that left David and his family baffled. Some horses became lethargic, while others exhibited erratic behavior, rearing up and kicking at invisible threats. The barn, once a place of joy and anticipation, now felt heavy with an ominous presence. David couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. The horses' distress seemed to intensify with each passing day, and whispers of unease spread among the family. They began to wonder if the renovations had disturbed something hidden within the old farmhouse, something that had lain dormant for years. As David lay awake at night, he could hear the restless sounds of the horses shifting in their stalls, their whinnies echoing through the barn like cries for help. The unknown cause of their suffering loomed over him, building a suspense that gnawed at his mind, leaving him to question whether they had truly brought the horses to a safe haven or unwittingly awakened a dark mystery that had long been buried. When the veterinarian arrived at the barn, David and his family were filled with a mix of hope and anxiety. Dr. Thompson, a seasoned vet with a calm demeanor, began his examination of Bella, the mare who had shown the first signs of distress. As he gently checked her vitals, David watched closely, his heart racing with concern. Dr. Thompson noted the unusual bleeding from her nostrils and the slight tremor in her legs, but despite his thorough examination, he couldn't pinpoint the cause of her symptoms. "It's strange," he said, furrowing his brow. "There's no obvious injury or infection. I'll need to run some tests, but I can't say for certain what's going on." David felt a knot tighten in his stomach as the vet moved on to examine the other horses. One by one, they were checked, and with each passing moment, the severity of their symptoms became more apparent. Several horses were now exhibiting signs of distress, rapid breathing, excessive sweating, and an unsettling reluctance to eat. The once lively barn had transformed into a place of worry, the air thick with tension. As Dr. Thompson continued his assessments, he expressed growing concern. "I've never seen anything like this," he admitted, glancing at David's father. "It's as if they're reacting to something in their environment." The uncertainty surrounding the horse's condition hung heavily in the air, amplifying the unease that had settled over the family. David felt a chill run down his spine as he recalled the strange occurrences since moving into the barn. The horse's escalating symptoms mirrored the unsettling atmosphere that had enveloped the farmhouse. As the vet prepared to take blood samples for further testing, David couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The situation was spiraling, and with each passing day, the horses' health seemed to deteriorate further, leaving them all to wonder if they had unwittingly unleashed something sinister within the walls of their new home. That night, as darkness enveloped the farmhouse, David's dad decided to camp out in the barn, determined to keep a close eye on the horses and their troubling condition. Armed with a sleeping bag and a flashlight, he settled into a corner of the barn, the faint glow of the lantern casting flickering shadows on the walls. The atmosphere was thick with an eerie stillness, broken only by the occasional rustle of hay and the soft whinnies of the horses, who seemed restless and agitated. As the hours passed, the night deepened, and an unsettling chill crept into the air. David and his mom sat in the farmhouse, their hearts heavy with worry. The barn, once a place of excitement, now felt like a foreboding fortress, and the shadows seemed to stretch and twist in unnatural ways. Suddenly, a series of horrifying sounds pierced the silence. A loud thud, followed by a frantic whinny, echoed through the night. David's heart raced as he exchanged anxious glances with his mom. "What was that?" she whispered, her voice trembling. They both strained to listen, but the barn remained shrouded in darkness, the only light coming from the flickering lantern. Moments later, a chilling scream erupted from within the barn, sending shivers down David's spine. "Dad!" he shouted, panic rising in his chest. He grabbed his mom's hand and they rushed toward the barn, fear propelling them forward. As they approached, the horses were in a frenzy, their hooves pounding against the ground, and the air was thick with a sense of impending doom. David's dad emerged from the shadows, his face pale and eyes wide with terror. "Something's not right," he gasped, his voice barely above a whisper. The tension in the air was palpable as they all stood frozen, the barn now a place of dread rather than safety. The horrifying sounds continued to echo around them, and David felt a deep sense of foreboding settle in his gut, knowing that whatever was haunting the barn was far from over. In the aftermath of that terrifying night, David's dad was visibly shaken, both physically and emotionally. He had spent hours in the barn, grappling with an unseen force that seemed to pulse with malevolence. His face was drawn, and dark circles under his eyes spoke of sleepless nights filled with dread. The once confident man now carried an air of uncertainty, his hands trembling slightly as he recounted the events to David and his mom. "I felt like something was watching me," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. The family struggled to cope with the trauma that had unfolded, each member grappling with their own fears. David found it hard to concentrate at school, haunted by the sounds of that night and the image of his dad's terrified expression. His mom, usually the pillar of strength, seemed lost in her thoughts, often staring out the window as if searching for answers in the darkening sky. The barn, once a symbol of hope and new beginnings, now loomed ominously in their lives, a constant reminder of the terror they had faced. As days turned into weeks, the unsettling atmosphere only deepened. Strange occurrences continued to plague the family. Objects moved inexplicably. Shadows flickered at the edges of their vision, and the horses remained restless, their health deteriorating further. It was as if a mysterious entity had taken root in their lives, a dark presence that threatened to unravel everything they had worked for. David often felt a chill in the air, a whisper of something sinister lurking just beyond his perception. The family's bond began to fray under the weight of their shared trauma, and the fear of the unknown loomed larger than ever. They were no longer just dealing with the health of the horses. They were entangled in a struggle against an unseen force that seemed determined to invade their lives, leaving them to wonder if they could ever reclaim the peace they once knew. One fateful night, as David's dad ventured back into the barn, he was met with a sight that would haunt him forever. The air grew thick with an unnatural chill, and shadows twisted unnaturally along the walls. Suddenly, from the darkness, emerged the horrifying creature that had been lurking just beyond their perception. It was a grotesque amalgamation of shadows and sinew, with elongated limbs that seemed to stretch and contort in ways that defied nature. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, piercing through the darkness like twin lanterns, filled with malice and hunger. The creature emitted a low, guttural growl that reverberated through the barn, sending a wave of dread coursing through David's dad. He felt paralyzed, caught between the instinct to flee and the need to protect his family. The implications of this entity's presence were terrifying. It was clear that it was not merely a figment of fear. It was a tangible threat, one that sought to invade their lives and feed off their despair. As David's dad stood frozen, he realized that the creature was drawn to their vulnerability, thriving on the trauma that had already begun to fracture their family. The urgency of the situation escalated as he understood that this entity was not just a haunting. It was a predator, intent on consuming their very essence. With every passing moment, the creature's presence grew stronger, and David's dad felt the weight of its malevolence pressing down on him. He knew he had to act quickly to protect his family from the impending doom that loomed over them. The barn, once a place of hope, had transformed into a battleground between light and darkness. As the creature advanced, David's dad summoned every ounce of courage he had left, determined to confront the horror that threatened to engulf them all. The climax of their struggle was at hand, and the stakes had never been higher. The fate of his family hung in the balance, and he knew that the time for action was now. If you found this story gripping and want to explore more tales that delve into the eerie and the unknown, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us bring you more captivating content that keeps you on the edge of your seat. Don't forget to like this video and share it with friends who enjoy a good thrill. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to sharing more spine-tingling tales with you soon.